Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about how algorithms and artificial intelligence, whether you like it or not, are already in control of our lives. First though, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, where you can get all of my latest articles, including these ones here. You can also get latest content from our other contributors like Kayla Moon, and updates from my radio show, as well as our weekly podcast, The Conscious Resistance Live. And of course, you can subscribe to our email newsletter right here. And follow us on minds.com. Sign up for our text list. If you want to do that, you can check below the video and find out more about that. So let's talk about this article here that I recently found from The Conversation, which is a pretty cool website if you haven't heard about it. Lots of interesting perspectives. Whether you agree with all of them or not is another thing. Algorithms have already taken over human decision making. This is from March 8th, 2019. And this is written by Dionysius Dimitis, lecturer in management systems at the University of Hull. He goes into a study that he was involved with a professor, Alan Lee, which was recently published, and how his study is showing how algorithms are already playing a vital role in affecting our lives. And he kind of gives this story of how a book by a scientist, biologist, Peter Lawrence, came to be priced on Amazon at $26 million. And he says that they later realized that this was the result of algorithms feeding off of each other and spiraling out of control. It turns out it wasn't just sales staff being creative. Algorithms were calling the shots. And then he said that kind of led the beginning of him looking further into this, and which ultimately led to this paper here: when humans using the information technology artifact become information technology using the human artifact. Pretty interesting stuff right here, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment, but I want to get to this article where he kind of explains his whole goal behind this. He says, our exploration led us to the conclusion that over time, the roles of information technology and human beings have been reversed. In the past, we humans used technology as a tool. Now technology has advanced to the point where it is using and even controlling us. We humans are not merely cut off from the decisions that machines are making for us, but deeply affected by them in unpredictable ways. Instead of being central to the system of decisions that affect us, we are cast out into its environment. We have progressively restricted our own decision-making capacity and allowed algorithms to take over. We have become artificial humans, or human artifacts, that are created, shaped, and used by the technology. Some of these examples of artificial intelligence and algorithms controlling our lives or starting to intervene in human lives is, for example, legal analysts are gradually being replaced by artificial intelligence, meaning that successful defense or prosecution of a case can rely partly on algorithms. Also, software has been allowed to predict future criminals, much like Minority Report, ultimately controlling human freedom by shaping how parole is denied or granted to prisoners. And this way, the minds of judges are being shaped by decision-making mechanisms they cannot understand because of how complex the process is and how much data it involves. They go on to give examples of the job market. And he said, meaning that in this way, some human recruiters will never even glance at some potential candidates' details because the algorithm decides which ones they should look at. Not only does this put people's livelihoods at the mercy of machines, it can also build in hiring biases that the company had no desire to implement. And it goes further, talking about the financial sector, how algorithms, 85% of all trading in the foreign exchange markets is conducted by algorithms alone, which has led to an algorithmic arms race, going into talking about algorithms affecting the stock market and other conditions like that. And this kind of gets into automated everything, automation. People worry about losing their job to robots and things of that sort. But it really reminds me of, you guys may remember a few months back, there was this document that got leaked, a presentation from Google, and I believe it was called The Good Sensor. And it was basically discussing a lot of different things about Google's plan, but it sort of illustrated how they have this idea, this vision of a world where we have like a permanent Google Assistant on us or connected to us or inside of us or something that is guiding our actions. You know, not just looking at your phone for Google Maps every now and then, but something that suggests, based on all of these probabilities, based on all this data that I've, looked at from around the world and from your friends and everything, I think it'll be best if you take this route because in that route you're going to run into this friend and you need to see this friend for this or that reason, right? Or if you see that person, they have something that's really important for you and they don't even know they need to give it to you. I mean, just all kinds of possibilities, right? I'm just making things up at the moment, but think about that. This is artificial intelligence, and that's imagining that it's thinking with our best interests at heart. Like, oh, my little human pets, I want to make sure that each of them gets all the opportunities that they need. So when I know that one of their friends has a gift that would go perfectly for them, I'm going to make sure that they line up and end up at the same place at the same time so that exchange could happen, right? That's like a best case scenario. But either way, even if it was that best case scenario, it involves handing over decision making to a machine and to a computer, to an algorithm, to a device that human hands created. But ultimately, artificial intelligence, military artificial intelligence, Google's artificial intelligence, Facebook's artificial intelligence, any artificial intelligence connected to the internet is now infinitely smarter than a human being because of all the data they're holding and possessing. What happens after that, I guess we're going to see in the coming years. But these two have come together to put this paper together that I mentioned, When Humans Using the Information Technology Artifact Become Information Technology Using the Human Artifact. And again, this is coming from these two gentlemen from the Center for Systems Studies at Hull University Business School in the UK, Virginia Commonwealth University in the USA. So two professors here looking into this idea. How systems theorizing can be conducted on the basis of a few systems principle. We apply these principles to theorize about the systemic character of technology and investigate the role reversal in the relationships between humans and technology. We argue that the role reversal has considerable implications for the field of information systems that has thus far focused only on the use of the information technology artifact by humans. And they go further into this. But yeah, that's pretty much what they're pointing at here, is saying that artificial intelligence algorithms are already controlling and affecting our lives, whether you realize it or not. And this is quite scary to me. I mean, I'm not a Luddite. I know I talk about 5G, I talk about cellular phones, and I talk about Wi-Fi, and I talk about, you know, the negativities of the blockchain and of the smart grid and facial recognition and sensors and the whole smart world that everybody wants for various reasons, for safety, for health, for money, whatever. I talk about often the downsides because I just feel like we're in a place where we're surrounded. I mean, I have a phone. It's not connected to anything, but I have it next to me most of the time in case I need to pick it up and check something else that, you know, separate from my laptop, that I'm probably spend 70 to 80%, if not more. I'm trying to be, you know, positive about this, of my life in front of this laptop. And I know that that's affecting me, and you know, that I'm connected to it, that I'm glued to it, right? But I also spend time outside. I also spend time exploring away from the computer. So it's about balance, right? But I guess my point here is that many of us, I think, are just rushed so blindly. I know a lot of people are plugged into their phones 24/7, fall asleep with them, wake up with them, and at different times I've been like that as well. And then apps only make it worse, and just if you're plugged in any way, like trying to keep up with the news or do things like I'm doing, then that it necessitates being plugged in to some degree, or at least that's the excuse we tell ourselves. But ultimately, not only are these things potentially hazardous to our health to be surrounding ourselves with these devices and these kinds of things, but also more to this story, allowing these things to make our decisions for us. It's a pretty scary thing, I think, at least. I mean, even to the point of Google Maps, right? Google Maps is a very useful tool, or any map tool, right? Let's not just Google, but say any other mapping tool out there that helps you, any GPS tool is valuable, right? In the way that they operate now, like say a Google Maps will suggest a couple of different routes and show you the options. And then maybe they might even suggest some random route that you didn't even think of, because they can see more than you can see, and they can see where there's a wreck ahead and suggest an alternative turn that saves you 5 minutes, right? And that's pretty amazing, because before that, those of you who grew up before the internet and before Google Maps and things like that and GPS everywhere, you remember getting lost. You remember having to figure your way out. I bet that people knew their way around better because eventually they would learn how to get around. They had to figure it out, as opposed to just always relying on Google Maps. And in the same way, just another example of like technology in general taking over functions for human beings. I used to be really good with numbers because I resisted having a cell phone all the way up till like 2010. I got my first cell phone. Then I got rid of it again. I never got a smartphone until the late 2016 when Mint Press News said that I was going to have to start doing live stream videos for them. So I had to buy a smartphone, and I've recently turned it off. And so in all that time of using cell phones and not having cell phones, I would have like a numbers list that I would keep in my wallet of just all the important people in my life and their phone numbers in case I need to stop and use a payphone. I was old school like that. Now there's not very many payphones around at all, and I've given up my numbers list in exchange for the numbers that I have on my phone and the few that I can memorize. But most of them I depend on this machine to hold it for me, to save it for me. And I guess you could say I'm depending on the piece of paper. But what I did remember is that when I had to dial them, instead of just press somebody's name and it automatically dialed, I would remember them. I wouldn't even need the number list after a while. I could remember dozens and dozens of phone numbers. Anyways, my point here is that machines, technology, different forms of technology, and now algorithms and artificial intelligence affect our lives in really great ways. When you rely on that Google Maps and you never, go for spontaneity, maybe you're late sometimes, or you don't see that shortcut you could have got that Google could have told you, but also maybe you learn how to work the roads better. I know my way in and around Houston because of riding bikes, because of doing it by myself, the old school way, the human way. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that we need to find a balance. I hope that we find a balance, because too much of the world's population, especially those in quote-unquote control, are rushing forward to these types of technologies without ever asking or stopping to consider the risks. At what point do we become the tool of the artificial intelligence, the tool of the algorithm, as opposed to the algorithm or the artificial intelligence being the tool of human beings? That's something we need to consider, and only so much of it is in our hands, as we're not the only ones in control of the world here. We're in control of our personal world. But as other people push forward towards artificial intelligence without stopping to think what's going to happen when you unleash this on the world, and will it end negatively like most Hollywood movies have shown us? Will it end up a Terminator, Skynet, into the Matrix, into something horrible? Or will it end up with us some people choosing to see artificial intelligence almost as their god, as their secret friend, their guide, right? I think that's part of the game as well, right? To give your life over to this technological god. And that's another story for another day, but also equally dangerous. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And of course, remember to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, follow us on minds.com, sign up for our text list in the description below the video. And until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.